Welcome to the Gold Medal Excellence Podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Payne, along with my co-host, Chris Asher. And today on the program, I'm joined by Karif Byrd. Karif,
right.
thanks for coming on the program.
Yeah, thanks, Karif. Thanks for coming on. Just a little background. I've known Karif for years, and he's out here doing his thing, training clients in the Southern California, mainly the Orange County area, but very happy to have him on this show. So he's got a lot of advice for you youngsters, you athletes, and you parents. So thanks, Karif.
Well, thank you for having me, man. It's an honor for sure. Glad we could do this. Definitely.
All right, I'm going to start from the very beginning. Talk about Karif as a youngster growing up in Georgia and how you were eventually able to attend prep basketball powerhouse Oak Hill Academy in Mount Wilson, Virginia.
So I grew up in Georgia. Raised by my mom, my grandma. I actually had an uncle that played in the NFL, so it kind of was my attraction to sports in general. My mom was more on the educational side, so was my grandmother, so you could imagine that. And then being raised by two women, it was just like, you know, to crack the whip. This is what we're gonna do. Sports was kind of secondary, but I always had a passion for it. I always knew that in some capacity in my life. I mean, obviously, I wanted to be a professional and make a lot of money doing it, but at some point, I know I wanted to be involved in sports. Never thought I'd be a trainer like I am right now, but that's really what I wanted. And I grew up playing a lot of basketball, a little bit of football, but not much. Mostly basketball, and I played baseball actually. And I got to high school. I started to get really good at basketball. I didn't really think that I was kind of a smaller guy at the time. I mean, I actually 6'3" now, but that didn't really take hold until as I got older. I had like a late growth spurt. So I got to high school, wanted to play basketball, and I just wanted to be on the biggest stages. I wanted to play with the best guys. I wanted to be, I was one of those guys I'd rather get crossed up and dunked on than get better and be on the big stage than I would be to be in the back room somewhere with nobody watching and then crossing everybody up. I'd rather be a part of the action than not be. That's just kind of like, and I guess now they call it that dog in you. They call it nowadays. I think I had that kind of at an early age. So I ended up was in high school. I ended up going to Oak Hill Academy my junior year. I was willing to test my skills. I wasn't afraid of anyone. So I did that. Did that for a year, then came back. Then I started to actually run track. And then once I started running track, which is what my mom always wanted me to do. But, track to me was just like, it wasn't, I guess someone told me it wasn't glamorous enough for me. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what someone used it for me at one time. And then I went to Georgia on track scholarship and then ended up playing a little football, ended up playing a little arena football and end up training. Now here we are right now. And that's now where I met Chris when I came out here. He was like, he said, man, if you start working on your form, if you start to, some things can happen for you. He said, you fast, but you have no technique, and he was right. He was right. So that's kind of how it all came to fold in a nutshell, the short version of the situation. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, talk about adjusting to a major program like Georgia, doing track and going to a big time school and what it was overall like being a part of that program.
It was big, and I don't realize. I think nowadays kids they understand the magnitude of things like that. I didn't really see it that way, because I guess, and I don't know. I can't really speak for everyone when I say this, but when I went to Georgia, it was just, hey, it was Georgia. I mean, to me, it was an opportunity to get an education. It was an opportunity to play sports. I was just excited. I didn't really see it as like what it is right now. Like the way I use it now to talk about it or to use it as a reference is completely different than I ever thought I would do it, and definitely different than what I use it for 20 years ago or 26 years ago now. I mean, it's been a long
it's starting
27 now. Years ago since I graduated high school. It was different. So for me, as far as being a big program, I mean, I know it was a big program, but I didn't see it the way that I see it now. So coming in, I don't think I really had like my eyes wide open. I was just like, I knew people that were going. I knew people that were there. It was like, wow, this is a bigger extension of like, and it wasn't any discredit to it. I looked at it as something like, okay, I like doing what I'm doing. So it was more like fun for me. It wasn't like a job. My motivation was, hey man, I'm gonna use this to get an education. I can use this to do something that I love to do. And maybe one day I can make some money out of it. That's how I looked at it. So I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but it just wasn't like it is right now. It wasn't, I wanted to be on the big stage because I wanted to be on the big stage. I didn't want to be on the big stage because it was something I could post on Instagram, or there wasn't any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have been motivated differently had I come up in this era, but it was just different for me.
Yeah.
So it was like I said. So I didn't walk in thinking, oh my gosh, like yeah, there's some great guys here, but like I'm gonna have fun competing. It wasn't like I like to compete. Even to this day, I like to compete. So that was the motivation for me. But because it was Florida State back then. It was the schools that were good back then are not the schools that kids are interested in right now. Florida State was king when I was coming up, and Miami, and kids are now they don't, Nebraska, for instance, and kids don't really, those programs are the same thing anymore. So for me, the motivation was a little different.
Karif, give me some more background on that. You're at Oak Hill Academy, which is, we said that, hard to get into. Then you go back to Georgia. This is just a small part, but yeah, how did you get to Georgia? You started running track. I think me and you've had. I think you started running for fun. Like it was boring, but I was running, and the coach liked me. The coach liked me and wanted me to go to Georgia. I think you said it was like your first season running, and you were running with the 800 and. The coach was like, "Man, you can be good." And next thing you know, you're at Georgia.
So
in a sport you didn't even think about.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. It was something I didn't even look at. I had some other schools looking at me to play basketball, some smaller schools, and then I was running at the region meet actually. The region meet, and when I was there, they were looking at there was a kid that actually went to Notre Dame that was running. And there was a couple more kids that were going to other schools, and the Georgia coach was there. And I didn't think much of it. I was running, and all of a sudden I got done running, and the coach said, "Hey," one of the girls came to me and said, "Hey, that Georgia coach was asking about you." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool, good deal." Then he said, then some other people came and say, "Man, that Georgia coach was asking about you." And then my head coach came to me.
Third time.
Let me give a shout out to Derek Gilliard. I don't give him enough credit in my journey. I don't think, and I want to do that. But he was like, "Hey man, I got some stuff I need to talk to you. The Georgia coach wants to talk to you this week." So I'm like, okay, I don't really I take the thing with a grain of salt, because people say they don't want to talk to you, never hear from them again. And then so I went to school the next day, and I remember this is crazy. I'm in the bathroom stall, using the bathroom, and all of a sudden the head coach, the JV basketball coach, who was actually the weightlifting coach, came in because I'm about to start weightlifting class, and he's like, he looks at me and he says, he's just staring at me, and I'm standing in the stall and I'm looking down, like, you need to start working, right? I was like, "Oh, you heard?" He said, "Yeah, when you start working harder." And I thought I was a hard worker. He's like, "No, you need to start working harder." And he literally started to kill me. Like he started kicking my butt. And I think at that time though, was the first time I realized, what, I do a lot. And most people who know me would say I worked hard, but he basically told me it was like, people work hard, but they don't really know how hard they can push themselves until they push themselves. And it put a different mindset in me, just that moment. I mean, standing in the stall, him telling me that. And so I did that. Coach ended up calling me. Then they invited me out for a visit. I went and met with Rachel Hopkins, was her name, and Coach Mitchell. I met with them. They sat down with my mom. They told me what they wanted to do, what the plan of action was, and what I was going to decide to do. And after that, I started getting some other things going on with some other schools. But they had a really big journalism school. One of the top 3 in the country, and that's really what I wanted to get into. Obviously, I'm not doing that now, but that's really what I enjoyed. So my mom was kind of like, we're sitting in a hotel. She's like, Karif, you do what you want. I was kind of had my mind set on Florida State at one point, She said, you doing it in Florida, had got involved. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. She denied it after years later, but she said, you're going to need money every now and then. You're going to want to do things. You're going to need my money. You go where you want to go. I'm telling you right now, I only send money to Athens, Georgia. that pretty much, that was in that one,
Yeah.
That was into that one. So, I ended up at Georgia, and I enjoyed it.
You were a Georgia guy. You were from Augusta, right, Karif?
Augusta, Georgia. But crazy thing is, like, I wasn't really like a huge Georgia fan growing up like that. I kind of learned the history later on in life. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really a huge Georgia fan. I was Notre Dame fan growing up. The Tony Rices, the Rocket Ishmaels, the Ricky Waters, the Chris Zoric's. I was into that era. Football, I was in the Notre Dames, and and basketball, North Carolina. I hated Duke, although I had to respect them. I came along the Fab Five era with Jalen Rose and Chris Webber, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson, Juwan Howard, and those guys. So, I just that was really my motivation at that time. So Georgia wasn't really like a thing for me per se. And I believe it or not, I tell you that visit, I had only been to campus one time, and it literally was an hour and 15 minutes from my house. I'd never been to the stadium. I'd never been on campus. I was there for a track meet about a month and a half earlier than that encounter with the Georgia coach. And I didn't run very well. It was a relay, and we got our butts kicked. So I think by any time we come back to this campus was slim to none.
Yeah.
It was wild. So that was out of the blue. That's a blessing.
That's incredible. And I know but before Alexander moves on about you moving on in your career, but how did you transition from the track scholarship to football? Like, you're on scholarship, and next thing you know, you're on football. You didn't even play football. You played basketball.
Yeah, I played. So
you ran track. So how did you go to football?
I kind of had this thing in my head. I mean, I'll tell it now, but I was going to go run track and then try to sneak on that basketball team.
Well, every kid thinks that, though. But every kid thinks that. Every track kid, when I'm coaching at schools at UCLA, San Jose State, whatever, all the guys are like, I'm gonna run track, but I'm really gonna do this to play football.
Yeah,
they'll tell you that even if they're not good enough, but they'll be like, if they play in high school, they're like, I can play ball.
The basketball situation is more of a realistic type of, the track to football is more of a realistic type of transition, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The track to basketball, there's really not a big correlation between the two.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, track does help with basketball. I don't think people realize that. Well, but that fast twitch and the speed of it is just like, it translates more than people realize. But as far as like, I think it's more of a direct translation in football, just because there's a lot of straight ahead stuff. Basketball is a lot of lateral. But speed kills in any sport, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a shooting aspect, the ball handling, the ball skill aspect in basketball. Football, there's a lot of change of direction things, but I think you can be more utilized. But also people don't realize speed, just straight ahead running speed, doing speed training puts inches on your vertical too. That explosiveness. So there are some things more than people realize, but I guess a better way to put it is more common for guys to go from track to football, and then football guys running track in college and vice versa. So, that was my plan. And then I kind of started running track. It was all SEC, and then decided, what, I need to change up. Because again, like I said earlier, I like to challenge myself. Maybe not always the most financially beneficial, but for my mental state, like Roy Jones. I remember Roy Jones played in a basketball game the day of one of his fights.
Fight, yes.
Yeah, and so like he says, and I need to get my mind right. I just had I'm a Roy Jones guy. He's the best boxer I saw in my era. I know people at the end, but when things were going on, he just likes to box. But it's from a skill set. There was no one better to me during my era of boxing. No one than he was. So by just just that kind of mentality is kind of what I take on too. I want to challenge myself. So I decided to do it. I'm out here with Champ Bailey and Richard Seymour and all those guys. And it's like, it was a little more difficult than I thought. I'll tell you that.
I would think.
and no disrespect. And it was more of, people always talk about the hits. Was that the hits wasn't really the thing to me. That wasn't the issue. It was a lot of that. It's someone's hitting you. You got to make a turn going full speed on a straight line. And you got to catch the ball coming at you 90 miles per hour when your vision is being obscured from the helmet and stuff. There's a lot of different variables. More so, the football's a lot of things you got to get used to. There's a skill part of it. It's running. There's change of direction. Running routes, that kind of stuff. But then there's other things you got to get used to. You got to remember you're carrying an extra 20 pounds, and people have to get used to that part of it. The hitting's one thing, but that weight on your neck. You're running
with shoulder pads.
With shoulder pads on. You're
running,
legs, it's just a little different. Then people grabbing and pulling and stuff. And man, football's a tough game. It's not easy. I don't think the game gets enough credit for being as difficult as people think. I think you just run fast and lift a lot of weights. No. Football's a skill set. Those guys have put in a lot of work to get to where they are. And there's a reason why they're getting paid what they get paid. They deserve every bit of it. People sometimes don't disagree with it, but no, that's just what it is. So I did that, and I have fun. I don't regret it, making the switch. I mean, some people say, man, you was all SEC. Why would you do that? But I'm not motivated by accolades. I'm motivated by challenging my mindset. So like I said, it may not be the most financially beneficial way to do things, but, my peace of mind is better than dollars. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. After Georgia, you moved to California to try out for the NFL. When you first came to California, did you know anybody? Where did you initially stay specifically? And how much was the culture shock? And how did you end up meeting Chris Asher?
Well, the culture part of it wasn't different per se. It was just, I guess I had to get more used to the cost of things. It wasn't the culture, it was the economic thing. My goodness. And I think the first thing, I guess if you say culturally, the first thing that I realized that was different, and this was probably the worst thing. I remember the first day I was here, my cousin picked me up from airport. It was a Sunday night. And he picked me up in this Cadillac because it was his birthday weekend. And he had just come back from Vegas or whatever. So him and his girlfriend picked me up. We rode back to his house and to my uncle's house or my uncle's ex-wife's house. I don't know, whoever's house it was. We went there and I was staying, and then we went to I think it was Carl's Jr. got me something to eat. And then went back to his house, talked to my aunt. The next morning, my uncle woke me up, said, hey, he'll be at the house this time morning. We're going to go work out. We're going to get something to eat, kind of talk about the game plan. We go to Pepe's over on Placentia, right by Cal State Fullerton, where Chris Asher was coaching.
Yeah.
And we go there and I ask for a sweet tea. And the lady tells me, they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, like he said something about sweetness and something. I don't know. It's like, they don't have that here. Like, what do you mean they don't have that here? It's like, no, you got to. We got this. They had some raspberry tea. And I got stuck on raspberry iced tea for the longest time until I went back home and realized this is not it. We talked about it. I went and met with Lucius Smith, who was working me out. Put together a game plan. We go to Cal State Fullerton to run, and that's where I met Chris. He was coaching track at Cal State Fullerton. Introduced me to some guys, Brandon Campbell. So I met Chris, and me and Chris kind of would just see each other. We talk a little bit about different stuff. He taught me about sports. You kind of got to know him. And then one day I just was out there. I was like, hey man, Christian, what's going to be the ticket for me to work out with you, man? I don't have much, but I see what you're doing. I really like what you're doing. And we had kind of been vibing and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, it just from there, and then this is like 2002, we just started he started training me 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And I honestly would say I was the fastest I had ever been in my life. To this day, was working out with him. And I mean, some of the stuff he had was ahead of his time. I mean, he had some stuff that wasn't like, it was new stuff. He had his mindset on some things, and it really kind of taught me, like, even with my training, and this is probably I ever told, have confidence in what you're teaching, even if it's not what the next person is teaching. What you believe in what you're teaching, because it is just because 20 people are doing doesn't mean that's right or that's beneficial for that person. But he was teaching me stuff and said, hey, adjust your feet here, put it here. And everyone was teaching the same low 40 start. He told me some different stuff. And I was like, oh, and it was working. And I think most people, I go running some things, well, you should probably do it this way. And then I run fast, like, oh, where'd you get that from? And I told him from my track coach. So believing in what you're teaching, not worrying about what somebody else is saying or what they think is right. Like the scouting world, everyone's scouting and no one wants to make a judgment on their own. They want to go what 20 other people say. Well, that don't make you great. What make you great is being able to think on your own and do what you need to do. So that was probably the biggest thing I learned from you outside of the running part. And even bigger than the running part was just believing in what you're teaching and believing in what you know and believing in what you see. So to me, that alone to me was worth it. The coach you. Not to mention, I mean, we obviously hung out a lot, started doing stuff. He started taking me to places in LA I never would even thought about going, meeting people that I had only seen on TV. I don't know, Chris know a lot of people. A lot of people. Put me on a whole different, I kind of felt like I was back in the day, Monk was playing in NFL. I was living that life all over again when I was 10. I mean, 9, 8, 9, 10 years old again. I'm living the life again. So, but that was probably, got with Chris, and we kind of just been staying in touch and in contact over the years. And every now and then, he don't know, if I look at some of his little videos and snippets, try to get a little idea here and there.
That's thanks, Karif. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I recall I knew Karif's uncle Leroy, who played for the Rams, Leroy Irvin, and I went to Cal State Northridge. When I was a student, Leroy was coaching football up there. So some of the dudes on the track team, my teammates.
That's right.
My teammates were DBs. They were on the relay and they were in the 100 and stuff. So, my teammates would always tell me, oh man, Coach Irvin is the best coach I ever had. And then so when I got to Cal State Fullerton, one or two of them was training there or whatever. I saw Leroy, he kind of remembered me, whatever. And then I remember Karif moved out there and was like, yo, he had kind of put me on the private coaching. Actually, Leroy Irvin is the one that put me on. I was coaching at Fullerton, and he was like, yo, I got some people that need to run fast, and I don't know the track thing. I don't know the speed thing, so I'm going to send them to you. He just specifically said that. And he sent me a few cats, and then, word of mouth back then, just coming to train with me at Cal State Fullerton. And then Karif came, and I was like, yo, Karif, come on. Let's go. Let's do your thing. You got to come out here and work. And, I preach. I remember I was experimenting, like you said. I was learning. I knew things from my coach, but I was really experimenting. And I knew, I was like, this is going to work and that's going to work. And I listened to the coaches and was learning, but I knew, I always say, you got to go race and stuff, man. And I remember putting you in the 60 at all-comers meet against my track. And Karif won or tied. He won or tied. I don't know what they said.
I won.
Karif got to the point where it was like, yo, you're an elite sprint level guy. Like, if this football thing, drills go right, it's going to work out for you, so.
Those are good times, man. I did. I always forget about that. I don't know why I always forget about that. I think because he got that 200 and it was Ortega.
Yeah. We had David Ortega.
He sort of come around that corner, boy. I could hear him coming too, man. Yeah, I do that. Was it Fulton College?
Yeah, we went to that.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I do remember. Yep, I remember that. And you had some other elite level guys out there working out too. Brandon was one of them, obviously, and you had Ruben Drones. Yeah. What was the other running back's name that came along? Mike Anderson. I think he had started working with you a little bit too.
I had a couple guys. I had Sergio Santos, who was with he was from Modern Day. Actually, I think that was another guy who was like the first guy who kind of got me big was I was training some baseball players, same thing as Leroy, the baseball, team at Fullerton. We were winning the World Series every year. They had first round
Yeah.
draft picks. And I recall the coach, one of the assistant coaches, he was like, "Yo, Chris, I need you to get these guys ready for the 60. And we got all these baseball guys training over here. I'm just going to send them to you." And so I had this kid, Sergio Santos, at Modern Day, and he was first round draft pick by the Diamondbacks. And next thing you know, all these baseball kids were coming out with me running the 60. And then what would happen, a lot of times I would travel and go out of town. And I got to the point, I remember I had taught Karif and I taught Brandon. And if I couldn't coach people, I'd be like, "Yo, hey, Karif or Brandon, y'all take over for me this weekend." you know.
And that's where my coaching stuff came from. Like, cause I was like, man, someone asked me to coach. I was like, and I was actually only doing it out of respect for you. Like, just cause you helping me out. That was more like respect for you. Cause typically I'd be like, not that I didn't want to do it. I was like, I wasn't too confident in myself doing it. But I said, hey, you know what? You told one day, just show them what I'm showing you.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's
show them what I'm showing you. If you see something I would have told you, then say the same thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
You just relax. The hour go by real fast.
Yep.
Again, that's why I'm saying I learned some of those confident things about doing that from you.
Oh, no, I appreciate that.
Just knowing what you believing in, what you teaching, and showing, hey man, it's the same thing. I had a kid do something, and one kid told me one day, he said, I'm just doing what you do. Show me, and I'm like, there you go. It's all teaching is giving your knowledge. That's it. But it's also to that point though. It's not just having knowledge, but another thing people don't realize is in good coaches is being able to present the idea. Because I can tell you, the best coaches don't just have knowledge. I know a lot of people that know a lot, but they can't get someone else to understand it. And if you can't get someone else to understand it, then that's not good coaching, Mm-hmm. So it's really being able to get me to understand it, mm-hmm. So that's really the key. Because there were some things people been trying to tell me for 10 years. And you told me like that. Oh, yeah, I got that. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was like that. So, But yeah, that's what I tell you. It's just, coaching it can be difficult, but you got to approach it like a game. Same way you do a game. Same thing. It's all it is. All it is.
Yeah.
So you spent a little bit of time in California, then ended up playing semi-pro football in Europe. So tell me how you ended up getting that deal, and what city and country were you specifically located?
I was in Germany. It was in Dusseldorf, actually. So I had to think about that. I was in Dusseldorf, Germany. Actually, no, excuse me. The biggest city was Dusseldorf, was like 10 miles outside of the city I was in Essen. And I was playing there. Another buddy of mine, Steve Calhoun, who works with a lot of QBs these days. He was my teammate, and we had been working out there. Chris used to see us out on the field at Cal State Fulton working out. We used to be able to get a really good group of guys working out too back then. So I work out with him, and he liked what I was doing. He liked my speed, so he told his coach, "Hey, it's a kid out here. I want to come check him out." Coach came down, looked at me. He signed me on the spot. $500 a week. I mean, but they give you room and they pay for you.
Yeah, but it was a good experience.
It was a great experience, and it was able to lead me into some marina stuff and that kind of deal, and gave me a little more credibility. I was in camp a couple of times because of it, so it was not a bad thing. It was bad. It was fun. I don't really like to fly that much, so that's why I would want to do it again. But cross country and planes too long.
But yeah, you look at it, just from my vantage point and knowing you, that helped get you in the door. That helped legitimize you to say, like, you played in that league, and then they got you some tryouts for some marina leagues, or you got some camps. But it gave you more experience. It gave
for
remember,
sure.
you're a walk-on guy at Georgia at that point, so you only got that little bit of experience. Now you played. Now you've been in camps. Now you're running routes. You're training with your uncle. You're training with me. Now you've got that. And, we'll ask you some more questions later on, but now you're able to take that knowledge and really apply it to the kids and stuff you're working with.
Yes, exactly. And then again, it gives a whole different life experience.
Absolutely.
It's probably the
You went through that grind.
Yeah. Which I don't think. My uncle had told me once that I'm not gonna lie to you, Creep. I thought you would have gave up on this a long time ago. He said, but
Yeah.
you know, you keep pushing, and again, I got everything I do now still related to football.
Mm-hmm.
You know, still related to football. So it's a big part of my life, sports. And I think I said at the beginning, it's something that led into. I knew I wanted to do something that was related to sports and football, or just sports. And it had to be anything. I just something I want to stay involved in this. You know, I still get involved in basketball. Still get involved with some baseball things. Not as much, obviously. Most of my time is geared towards, you know, football stuff. Like, you know, my kid I opened, it's still one of those things. It's part of me. It's always going to be a part of me. You know, it's always going to be a part of me. Always. So sports is where it's at, man. It brings us all together. You know,
Mm-hmm.
You can't agree on something. Typically, it's the one thing you can do on any given Saturday in the fall. You can get 80,000 people to agree in one place, and that's just in one stadium. I think I did the math once. It's something crazy, but like just in attendance alone, there's at least just in attendance. That's probably about 8 million people in attendance at games somewhere across the country on a Saturday, and they all can agree. Not to mention the other whatever watching across the country. It's just we can. Sports is where it's at. I think we need to recognize that more as a society. That's how big sports really is. We think of the financial part of it, but it's more of the stability in this world is a lot of it for sports.
It's the one area where you can be, your brother can have different beliefs, different race.
Yeah.
No matter how you raised, you could be raised a Republican, Democrat, you could be raised racist, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're, you know, if the guy blocking next to you or blocking for you, or, you know, on the relay team with you, that's still your teammate, and you got to go to battle with them. So you learn to really deal with different cultures, nationalities. It really teaches a lot outside.
I agree. I agree. Yes. You understand. And some people, I said that someone not too long ago, and they were kind of like, whatever. I don't know about all that, but I think some people don't want to admit that sports is actually a huge part of. It's a huge part of society. What? And here's the thing: whether you're good at it or not, you don't have to be good at it. You know, whether you're good at it or not, it's still a big part of what we do. Period.
Well, you just look around a Laker game or a Ram game or a USC game, and you see all the different ethnicities. You see who's in the Coliseum. You know, you see who you're sitting next to. You see the fans. It's a diverse rainbow in there. You know, so it brings us together.
It does. I don't think people don't want to admit to that is what they don't want to do. You know, they want to try to eliminate it. Oh, it's just a bunch of ungrateful guys. No, they're grateful, dude. It's a job like everything else, but it's something that brings people together. And I'm thankful for it. They've done a lot for me.
2007, you found Get It Done Sports Training, worked with many professional and D1 college athletes, including Marcus Epps, put on many top youth camps, combines, and 7-on-7 tournaments throughout the state of California. So tell me about how you got your name off the ground with that company, and how just advice for young entrepreneurs such as myself to help form that solid rock at the foundation when you're getting started.
I mean, you first you said, like, let me say this, and this is with anything. And you had the question you asked was for young entrepreneurs, have a plan and stick with it. Like, too many people, like, if it don't work in the first 2 weeks, they're just like done.
Yep.
You got to have a plan and stick with it. Like, stick with it. Like, stick it out. It's just with anything, like with sports and stuff. Like, too many people, they willing to quit. They do it in everything these days. You got to have a plan and stick with it. Like, things not gonna go right every day. You know,
it's gonna go wrong most of the time.
Yeah, it's gonna go wrong most of the time. I mean, you know, 80% of the time it's probably gonna be not good, but you working for them 20. You know, so you look at coaches and guys that, you know, guys shoots 40-something%. He's a great shooter. I mean, he's 40%. He's a great shooter. He's missed more than half the shots he's taken.
In baseball, if you hit 300, You are
Yeah, you're
the
a great
best guy.
hitter.
You phenomenal.
Yeah, you're a
And
great hitter.
that's 3 out of 10. And that's
Yeah,
an
like
elite level.
I
You're
mean,
talking about
the
failure.
best.
You're the best at, if you put numbers, you're failing.
Yeah, like
3 out of 10.
yeah, this isn't. I think people are the grading system in school versus the sports rate is not going to work. I mean, and to get something out of something, you got to put something in it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You got to put something in it. Got to can be, not just financially, sweat equity as well. I think you got to keep working. Not enough people and again, I don't want to harp on the younger generation, but I think that's really the issue with a lot of these young kids. Is like as soon as something doesn't go right, they move on from it. But I also think they're being a little their vision and their outlook, or based on what they're seeing, is different from reality. There's some great things on social media, but there are also some things that can give you a false sense of what things are. I mean, anybody can make their life look good. TV, I watch interviews with guys all the time, and the things they tell you versus what they say on the interview is not always the same thing.
Yeah.
It's for there's the masses conversation, and then there's the people that are close to your conversation. It's usually not the same thing. So they just stick it out. Believe in yourself. Going back to trusting what you're teaching, trusting what you're doing. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And that was probably I started something that was strictly an accident, really. A dad came to me, wanted me to help his kid out. So I decided to help the kid out. It took him a couple of weeks to get me to do it. And then finally I decided to do it. He put some money in my hand. He went to go give me a handshake, put some money in my hand. Shout out to Arthur Valdez, who actually met the kid with Chris one day. He didn't even realize it. It took me 2 years to put it together. But we ended up being friends. The kid's 30 now, and he ended up doing the bobsled in the last 2 Olympics. But he played football, started doing that, and then he started kids started just coming at little by little kids would come, and you start doing that, you start getting some other kids that are doing things, and then to the Marcus point, it's just a kid. He came to me, and it's been a high school. Here's a kid, I'm telling you right now, just because, a prime example of what I just said, just because things aren't going your way right away, stick with it. Stick with it. No, played on JV as a junior in high school. Barely played in the senior year. Walked on at Wyoming. A buddy of mine was a big donor and kind of hooked it up for him to go to Wyoming. Big donor there, and asked, some of the coach he went to, hey, can you help the kid out? They brought him in. He ended up being a 3-year starter and a 3-year captain, 6th-round pick, and he just finished his 4th year, just inked another, got him $12 million just last week, and played in the Super Bowl, starting safety in the Super Bowl. They didn't win, but, and actually another thing too, though, here's the biggest thing, talking about work, the player performance checks they give to the NFL, he was the highest earner in 2022.
I saw that.
Highest earner in 2022. He played in all but 10 defensive snaps the entire season. All but 10. Durability. Durability and hard work. And 8 years ago, 9 years ago, nobody even wanted him. Look where he's at now. Stick with it. And I bring that up to talk about what you asked me. Stick with it. And it came, to get it done sports came because I stuck with it. Kept pushing. It is simple. Just have a plan and stick with it. And no things are going to go wrong. You just can't abandon ship.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Karif. I have several businesses. I've trained. I have a timing company. I've had real estate. There's always something wrong. I tell people, like, the first sign of failure, I would say most of the people this age group or younger, they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I tell people, when they say you're successful, I say I'm successful because I failed so many times and gotten my butt up. Because that's what success is you fail and then you learn from that and be like, I'm not going to do that again, and then you get better. You know, so as a coach, I tell people, as a coach, I failed all the time as a young coach. You know, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to learn from that. So I'm glad you said it. You have to have a plan. You have to stick with it. You have to know I'm gonna be wrong a lot. I'm gonna have to learn on the fly. No matter what you learn in a book or whatever, I'm gonna, and things are gonna go wrong. You know, I tell people this as a business owner. I had a track meet before. I remember we got to the track meet, and the cameras, the system didn't work. It was one of the first ones we did. It just didn't work. So imagine me as a business owner, school's like, what? you know, that's an example. I had to like comp them to meet. Do it, basically apologize, do another meet for free. We had to learn from that. To push forward. And I'm just using that. So catastrophes will happen as being in business, but you push forward.
You have to,
and you'll be successful if you do so.
And to that, what you just said, because you know what you fail at the most? Doing nothing.
Yep.
You're failing more doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even giving yourself a chance to be successful if you do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well try.
Yep.
You might as well. Too many people are afraid to fail. That's part of the journey. It is. I'm just sorry, but it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people that all the time. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen.
Yep.
Why are you always doing this? I go, I think it's good. I think, like, even this show, I said, me, Alexander spoke. I said, I think it's a good topic for parents. I think we have some good guests like Karif and these coaches. And I said, I think a lot of these parents and students need to hear this. And, if this thing blows up or does, phenomenal one day, that's great. But if not, I know it's something still people need and
to hear.
Yeah, people need to hear from you. They need to hear from these coaches. So
got to, because the kids, sometimes parents they're afraid for their kid to fail, and it's like you're failing them by doing that. Worry about the disappointment. Life gonna be full of disappointment. Listen, you don't get your heart broken.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me a long time ago, if you ain't getting your shot blocked or getting crossed up over every now and then, you're not playing against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. Life's the same thing. Life ain't nothing but a basketball game against the best team you're ever gonna play. Your biggest opponent. You're gonna run from it. You're gonna take the punches. What you gonna do? Hey, either way, you can go out losing on your own, or you can be called a loser for not even trying. Which one you want? When they say, was it Sugar Ray Leonard when he fought Roberto Duran? He got more credit for being courageous
mm-hmm.
in the first fight than he did for winning the second one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2013.
2013,
you start the Lisa Byrd Get It Done Foundation and also start the Get It Done Sports Radio. You take your business to the next level at that point. So talk more about those next steps you took in 2013.
Obviously Lisa Byrd was my mom. She had passed away 4 years before that. I just want to start do some things to kind of honor her a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. It was something she was always close to me. I just want to do some things. And to your point, I need to pick back up on that actually. But I just wanted to kind of do some things, be able to give some kids an opportunity to be successful, because I don't like when people's success comes down to a dollar amount. So being able to do that, to allow kids to come to camps and get some exposure, that was something I was looking forward to doing. So I did that. Because I was focused on satellite camps at the time. One of them was actually an old colleague of Chris's, Brett Brennan, who was now the head coach at San Jose State, but he was at Oregon State at the time. And we were doing we've been doing it for like 2 years. We invite the coaches down, invite the kids out, get a workout in. I remember 1 year Oregon State put in, I think of the 23 kids they brought in that year, I think 12 of them, 13 of them were from out of that camp. So that was one of the things I was looking to do. I want to give kids opportunity to grow, to be able an opportunity to succeed. Because most kids can't afford to fly up to Oregon State for a camp or fly anywhere. If you get local stuff, that's it. Other than that, they coach, and it was an opportunity for kids to get some exposure. So that was one thing I was trying. Uh, to this day, obviously the coaching, the camp circuit has changed a lot, so we're not really allowed to do those things like that anymore. But that was one of the things, and then just even with the training nowadays, just giving kids opportunity to work out. There's funds. There's I want to get to a point even now. I know I'm skipping ahead here, but just kind of where I'm at right now is getting some opportunities for tutoring programs for kids. They're looking to start an academy here where I'm at now. So just kind of feeding off of those things that I was working on. Didn't really get to take it off like I'd like to, just because I guess it's a rule changes changed and with some things, but able to kind of funnel some things out, try to move on with that.
Okay, it sounds like, I mean, like really took it to another level. You started the foundation with your mom, you had the radio show, and then that was huge. You can't do them anymore, but think about that. You were at the forefront of satellite camps,
Yes.
Because what you said was big. Most kids can't afford to go on a 5-school tour.
Not the kids they looking to bring in.
Yeah. So, I remember, next thing you know, the satellite camps have blown up, and you see Jim Harbaugh at them in Michigan and all these people, and you had started doing them out here.
Yeah.
So you had that relationship with Coach Brennan, who now is San Jose State, the head coach, and that kind of I think what put you over the top, to be at the forefront of having a satellite camp. That, like you said, Oregon State signed 20-some guys, and 8 of them came from your camp.
Yeah.
That makes people go, "Who's this guy? This guy put this thing on." Coaches are going to want to talk to you at that point, where it gets out. So looks like you stepped up.
It's that thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. That not being able to do that camp anymore kind of hurt me. It did. It kind of hurt me. I wish we could still do that. I wish we could still do those. Those are fun. Sometimes you have extra fun doing certain things, but watching a kid get offer out of a camp, like, wow, that's a life changer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, you're at a camp, you got these kids, and you put this on, and because of that, you help this kid get an offer, or multiple kids, that wouldn't have got those offers because coaches wouldn't have seen them.
And that's what I tell people. You just never know. Again, that's the biggest reward for me, is watching kid dream come true. That's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. So, it kind of touching me a little bit, man, because I remember watching those kids get those offers, those moms being proud. I had a couple moms after they got there thanking me, like, hey, I didn't do anything. Your kid had to perform, but just like, knowing you had a hand in something like that, it was big for me.
Mm-hmm.
2016 continued to take off. You were part of Jared Goff's pre-draft workout circuit at J. Sarah High School.
Yeah.
And you also opened up a training facility in Costa Mesa called EBS Performance with Marcus Epps. So tell me more about how you got started on those 2 different opportunities and what you've been doing lately.
So 2000, actually the 2021 was actually the EBS Performance. But 16 was when I worked with Jared. He was part of a combine group that I was working with. So I handled the receivers. Me and Jared just kind of built a relationship because obviously he's a quarterback. I'm working with receivers, so we kind of had to kind of gel together. I had a kid that really didn't have anything. His name was Chase Garbers. He didn't have anything, and I was like, hey. He had a couple at the time. By this point, as time went on, he started having like some little. I mentioned to Jared, hey man, this kid, can you look at him? I know he's a good quarterback. Maybe he could be. And I think he's a Division I guy, Pac-12 guy. I think he's a Saturday quarterback for sure. Take a look at him. So he came out and threw a little bit to some of the guys. So him and Jared kind of gained a relationship or whatnot. And as the time went on, he started getting little offers here and there. I remember Boise State offered him first, and a couple came along, and then some Pac-12 started coming. And then him and Jared kind of got a good relationship. Cal ends up offering him. He sits on offer for a little while, then he eventually commits to Cal. But I just remember that whole thing they made this like a, it's kind of like a Jared Goff, Chase Garbers type thing. And then Chase was on TV talking about how I introduced him. But the reality, I didn't really know at the time. I didn't know Jared that well. I just had met him because he was in the combine group, and it was just again, it was just me trying to help another kid that I knew could play that was being overlooked. And actually, ironically, Chase ends up going to Cal. He ends up starting for 4 years. He's the winningest quarterback in the history of Cal. When you think about all the quarterbacks they've had, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, what was it, Kyle Bowler, what's the guy named Steve Burkowski? We're going to go back some years on the thing about the quarterbacks they've had. Nate Longshore, they've had some good ones. But he ends up being the winningest quarterback at Cal, and he actually is on the Raiders roster now. He just finished up his. So again, things can happen. But so you fast forward, 16, I did some training, still working with some guys, trying to help guys, but I kind of got more in the recruiting side of things a little bit. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, Marcus hit me. I was like, hey, Creep, we all think about getting our own place. I'm like, well, Marcus, you got the money. He said, well, I'm willing to do something if you're willing to help, help. We want to run the place, and then we can so we found a spot. His agent found a spot for us. We moved in. We found a spot. The build out took forever. Marcus gave us his whole house, his left and right arm for this place, but it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is beautiful. Chris has been out here. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can reverse the camera a little bit. Sauna at the gym right now as we speak. Doing this because it's so loud in there, and you see there's a field out there, there's people out there working out. But yeah, I'm actually in the sun. And there's a cold tubs and stuff right there. But yeah, just he gave his right and left arm for this place. So, but it's beautiful, and I'm thankful. So I'm thankful to have an opportunity to do something.
Let me tell you, so I've been in the speed college game, speed sports performance game for years now. What you want to call it. I'll say this: those places are needed. Because what people don't understand is the high school coaches and even your college coaches can only help you so much. They've got a lot of athletes. They can't give you a lot of the personal attention you need if you're an underdeveloped kid. I tell people, if I'm coaching sprinters, I'm doing block starts, and it's 8 people lined up. Realistically, I can only watch a couple of you, and I'm probably watching the two. I'm watching the 2 who are winning.
The 2 that you know are
so,
that you know.
So if you're the last person, and you're like, Coach, what I do wrong, I'm really not gonna have an answer for you. So I'm gonna be like, you need to talk to your team. But I didn't really get to see you because I was watching. So anyway, what I'm saying is, people need private coaching. To develop. The elite people need it to keep getting better. The developmental people need it. And what you provided, and I always tell people, because they don't have enough of them in Los Angeles. These people the performance centers help because I have clients I've sent to your center, Karif. I've got at least a couple guys there, and I think I've told a couple more because you've got the field turf. I think you got some teams out there like those lineman teams. You got some excellent trainers, but you got the weight room, you've got the training room. You guys have got a really nice world-class facility set up there. You have the things in order that these kids need to do to train year-round, and you guys have, I think, a staff of experts that can really develop the kids. So it's a very impressive thing. Very impressive.
Appreciate it. We try and do some things. That's pretty much where I'm at right now with things, just trying to keep building this off. We got a lot of NFL guys there training, right now. So that's pretty much where I'm at as far as training goes. Nothing really changed. I haven't really changed much in that regard. Just a new look, but the same mindset, same grind. Get up every day, put my shoes on the same way. A little less hair, a few more grays in the beard, but that's pretty much where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely an upgrade. Something where we started.
Oh, no, for sure. Definitely
an upgrade. Why, while you're talking about, what kind of, you have NFL clients, you have, obviously, you've got, tell us about the clients you have there at EBS,
Um,
tell
I
us a
mean,
little bit
from
about people, what kind of camps, because maybe people in LA and stuff don't know much about it.
so it's EBS Performance and Fitness. We have we have not to I don't want I'm like you, I don't want to be name dropping, but we got some guys from the Eagles, some guys from the Saints, some guys from the Raiders, guys from the Chargers. We have some guys from we got some college guys, some known college guys, guys from the Bears, uh the Colts. We pretty much got at least one guy representing from at least every team. We got a full physical therapy clinic here on the facility. We got a sauna, we got a hot tub, a cold tub, an 8-person sauna, like a legit 8-person sauna. I mean, I'm sitting in that thing,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in that bad boy. So I had it on for a little while. I turned it off. For me anyway, I'm not some guy. We got 40 yards of turf. We got state of the art equipment. We got showers. We got a sand pit.
Yeah.
We have, if someone wants to come in and sunbathe, you can do it. It's one of those places. The biggest thing is the camaraderie we have here with our clientele and the trainers here. We're all like a big family. The vibe is good. Marcus was on NFL Total Access yesterday, and that was one of the things he mentioned was, the vibe has been good. And that's what a lot of people say is the vibe is good. The vibe is good. It's just like a family. Everyone comes in, everyone speaks, how you doing, blah, blah. It's like a family. I mean, it can get a little crazy loud in here sometimes, but everyone's just having a good time. And I think it's a good escape for people. You're going to get faster, you're going to get stronger, you're going to become a better athlete, but your mindset going to be better when you leave here too. And that's probably the biggest thing for me. We located close to California. You can look us up on EBSperformance.com. Anyone has any questions, wants to come check the place out, or any trainers look for a place to train their people, give us a call. Let us know.
You mentioned the NFL people, but what about more for the masses? Like I would imagine you guys are trying to cater towards high school baseball, football. Yeah,
so that's really
so
what
do you do classes? Is it just individual? I'm just more for this is what I'm talking about. We're trying to be for the parents. So if I'm a soccer player, EBS, if I hear you just NFL, I'm scared, I'm intimidated.
And you know what?
What do you want for the kids and for the high school corner that wants to go to college?
I try to stay away from it being that way because I don't want to. You're right. It does. It can be very intimidating. But I mean, 99% of the people that come through here have no affiliation with sports whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
None. Don't even play sports. We cater more to the masses. I think for some people, it's just for some athletes that come in here. It's an opportunity for hey, some credibility involved. But for me, mostly, I'm more geared towards the masses, the general fitness people. The lady who wants to lose, 10 pounds or 15 pounds or 20, I don't know, whatever it may be. Got to be careful what I say. People take what you say and turn into something different. But that's really we're more geared towards that. A family environment. Hey, come in. How you doing? Have some fun. And, this is something for better, for like almost a therapy session. Exercising is good therapy, relax the mind and go off and do what you need to do for the rest of the day, or, relax you from what you've done that day, depending on what time you're coming in. But we mostly are here for the general public. If a kid wants to play sports, we got different trainers on staff. There's a couple of other sports performance coaches here. So everyone has their own little specialty that they specialize in. And, you come in, you want to get some skill soccer training, we'll point you in the right direction for that. If you want to get some athletic training for sports, we'll get you pointed in the right direction for that. If you need to someone wants to lose, 30 pounds, we'll point you in the right direction for that. Someone wants to be a bodybuilder, we'll point you in the right direction for that. It just depends on what your needs are. We got it. We'll have what you need. We'll just point you in the right direction where you need to go.
There you go.
Awesome. Great. Karif Byrd, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciated learning from you, and It was an honor to have you on the podcast, and this was a lot of fun.
Let me,
It was an
let
honor
me-
to be here. I appreciate
Let
it.
me,
I
let me,
appreciate it.
yeah. So, hey, Karif, like I said, thanks for coming out here. It's been an honor watching you grow. Love the training center. Love what you're doing for the kids out there. Me and you definitely got to connect. We definitely got to get something going. I said that I got to get over there sometime and do
Come
something.
on,
I got to
down.
come over there and maybe work with, get there and, you know, help you out. I'm still obviously training some people, but I got to get over there.
Well,
And
come on through, man. You know you're always welcome. We need to get Brandon Campbell over here too, man. I need to get his son over here, get some work in.
we're
Yeah, I'd
gonna,
love to also come as well for sure. Check it out.
Well, come on down anytime. Let me know.
Awesome.
For sure.
all right, Karif.
Thank you.
Take care.
I appreciate y'all. It was an honor. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.